That's okay. Thank you, bro. So my name is Lenny Sharon. I was born, raised, educated, and practiced law in Pittsburgh until I was 40 and moved up to Maine to teach at the law school. That only lasted a couple years, and I went back into private practice. And what has been a common theme throughout my whole practice is I only represent people that are charged with crimes. So crooks and liars, that's my everyday menu. But when Alex said, does anybody ever say, Lenny, it's cool to be a lawyer? Well, to some lawyers, to me, people always say, how the fuck can you represent those people? What they don't know is I have been very, very fortunate, I have to say, without bragging, in my 46 years of practice. I have never represented, at least according to my clients, anyone that's guilty. So on the offhand chance they might be trying to bullshit me, I've developed a little game called Can You Tell a Crook by Its Cover? So to help you answer that question, let me take you to a federal district court in Brooklyn, New York, before Brooklyn was Brooklyn, and a trial that featured 3 gentlemen from Pittsburgh, 2 brothers, degenerate bookmakers, who had convinced their best friend, who played for Boston College basketball team, to fix games so they could win money. My client had to go to get the okay from the mob in New York. And for any of you seen the Goodfellas, you'll recognize the person who he went to get this permission. It was Henry Hill, played by Ray Liotta in the movie, and Jim Burke, Jim the Gent Burke. Jim the Gent Burke is an example of whether you can tell a crook by its cover. Jim Burke's cover says this: to this day, he was the mastermind of the largest cash robbery in this country when he and his crew hijacked money and stole money from a Lufthansa airway. It's called the Lufthansa heist. His sons were named Frank James Burke and Jesse James Burke, named after the James brothers. His wife had been a dancer at the Copacabana, and his kids were all gangsters. Jim Burke not only was famous for that, when he went to prison and they dug up the floor of his bar, they found at least 20 people who he was responsible for killing and putting them 6 feet under. So can you tell that that man was a crook by his cover? Absolutely. Every day when he walked into that courtroom, before the judge came in, you could hear the chains rattle as he was led in to the courtroom. He sat next to his lawyer, a guy I called Brooklyn Mike Coiro. Mikey had his hair greased back. Mikey had them flashy Italian suits. Mikey had grown up in the streets and was best friends with Johnny Gotti, who later became the Teflon Don. So during the 7-week trial, Mike was kind enough to take me to these mob restaurants, these mob bars, and I can still smell the pasta, and I can still smell the sausages. So when the trial ended, I was very happy to go home. But I took with me about 20 extra pounds. So I beat feet to a gym in Pittsburgh and was fortunate enough to meet a gentleman named Tom Novak, who was the personal trainer at the gym. Tom took me into his little office, and I was astounded. His football jersey from the University of Pittsburgh hung on the wall. His national championship banner from 1976 hung on the wall. His books that he was studying to try to get in as a 5th-year medical student at the University of Pittsburgh was on his desk. I befriended Tom, and Tom would come out to my house, and as we would watch a football game, he would be reading his books. Medical school's a tough stop. So right before Tom took his med boards, he announced that he was going to go down to Tampa Bay and try to play for a United States Football League, which was a breakoff league. He went down. His father was going to pick him up. His dad owned a bunch of condominiums in Florida. He was going to pick him up at the airport in his S-Class. Tom had pictures of his fiancée, Lynette, all over his little office. She was a wonderfully beautiful woman, and I was very fortunate to know a man of that achievement. He did try out, according to him, for the Tampa Bay Bandits. Unfortunately, according to him, he didn't make the team, but he brought me back a bunch of souvenirs from the Tampa Bay Bandits. Then he applied to med school, got in med school. I would pick him up regularly in front of the med school, and he would come out to my house and again study his med books. A phone call came in about 3 months after he got into medical school and was studying in med school from Lynette's mother. It seems that he was holding her captive in his home and subjecting her to abuse. I said to his mother-in-law, his mother-in-law to be, why would this man risk this? This man has achievements. He's in medical school. He's studying in medical school. His father owns condominiums there. He's wealthy. He's a good athlete, and he appears to be a good man. She said to me, what the fuck are you talking about? She says, he never graduated college. He never played football. His father did maintenance at hotels, didn't drive an S-Class, didn't try out for a football team. So the question is, can you really tell a crook by its cover? The answer is simply no, because crooks come in all varieties and with many different stories to tell.